Hi, I'm so glad that you are able to join me today to learn about emotional intelligence and coping strategies for your families to get through crisis. I know right now we have a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but I'm going to tell you some different ways that you can cope as an individual and as a family. This is going to be particularly helpful for those who are homeschooling for the first time or those who are only homeschooling temporarily until they're able to go back to work full time and put your kids in an educational institution of your choice. All right, so the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is addressing your emotions. During hard times, it can be very challenging to identify exactly how you're feeling. It can be um, emotionally draining as we're going through social media. One second you're up and you're looking at something funny and you're laughing. The next second you're looking at how the pandemic is shaping the world and taking people's lives. And so you can go to from high highs to low lows very quickly. And this makes it very challenging to identify how you're feeling. And so, one way that you can identify how you're feeling is by asking yourself the four questions. Now, please note that as a parent or guardian, it's really important that you're able to identify how you're feeling first before interacting with a child or challenging the way they're feeling. Because our children look to us for coping skills and coping mechanisms. Our voice becomes their inner voice. So it's very important that we are taking responsibility for our feelings, and we cannot do that until we identify them. So we can identify our feelings using the four questions. The first question is simple. How am I feeling? This question is a question that really starts out the trajectory of the rest of the questions. It's a question that clicks something in your subconscious mind to say, wait, I'm feeling something, and really gives you the reason to pause and be intentional about recognizing that you are feeling. It doesn't matter what you say your feeling is at this point, it's just the behavior of stopping and recognizing that you are feeling. So that's the first question. How am I feeling? The second question is, when did I start to feel this way? Now, this is a time where you recognize, okay, I went from one state of being to another state of being, and there was a shift that occurred. The second question allows you to stop and focus in on yourself so that you can pinpoint exactly when that shift occurred. The third question is, why does that make me feel this way? So after you've identified the shift, the next question is, well, why? Why did that thing change my state of being? Why did that thing shift my emotions from one state to another? And then the final question is, how am I feeling? I know it's the same question as the first, but this how am I feeling is more accurate. Let me give you an example. So I am a homeschool parent of four beautiful children. My kids are busy. They are 8, 6, 3, and 8 months. So I was up all night long with the baby. I got up, I made the kids breakfast, and the first thing they do is complain. Oh, mom, I don't want this. I don't want oatmeal for breakfast. I don't like raisins in mine. Oh, God, did you put cinnamon in this? Oh, this is horrible. So they were just upset, complaining about breakfast. I pull out their work for the day, and I'm like, okay, you guys, trying my best to get them engaged, and nobody wants to do their work. This is boring. This is hard. I don't know how to do it. And I'm just at my wits' end. I cannot believe that these kids are not being grateful. Don't they know how hard I work? So, how am I feeling? I'm frustrated. I feel unappreciated. I'm a little discouraged. Like, these kids, man, when did you start to feel this way? Well, I was up all night with the baby. And so I didn't have very much energy as I'm going and giving everything I have, my last drops of energy, my last drops of sanity, I'm pouring out on these kids. Well, why? Why did that make you feel that way? Well, I didn't have very much energy. So how are you feeling? I'm tired. See, my initial how am I feeling was frustration, right? I'm frustrated. The kids aren't doing what I want them to do, yada, yada, yada. But after I go through the steps, I realize that I'm not really frustrated. I'm tired. So here's the thing. When you are identifying your first emotion, you can't just stop there. I know it sounds simple to just be like, how am I feeling? Oh, okay, that sounds accurate. I'll go with that. But that's not always true. Let's look at what would happen if I treated my first, how are you feeling? If I treated my frustration, what would I have done? Maybe I would have called a friend or journaled. Perhaps I would have indulged in my favorite sweet treat or made myself, a nice breakfast and really treated myself. But then shortly after, I would be tired again because I never treated my initial feeling. I never addressed how I was feeling and gave myself what I needed in order to rectify that frustration, right? Or that tiredness. And so now that I know, okay, I'm not frustrated, I'm actually tired, now I know what to do. Now I can phone a friend and say, hey, can you watch the kids for me for a little bit while I take a quick nap? Now I can give the kids an activity or put on a movie and go and sneak away and lay down for a little bit. But here's the thing, when you do not identify how you are feeling, then you don't know which coping mechanisms to use to feel the way that you are wanting to feel. Identifying your feelings also helps you identify and shape the things that you need in order to succeed. Here's the cool thing is you can actually use those 4 questions in reverse to create the environment that you need in order to succeed. You can say, when I do something really good, like when I am accomplished, when I feel accomplished, when I feel purposeful, when I feel empowered, why do I feel that way? I feel that way because I've completed something. Okay, when do you feel that way? I feel that way when I get done doing a big project. Okay, so how am I feeling? I'm feeling empowered, right? And so I can look at my situation and say, okay, what was I doing? Why did this success happen? And then use those things that I've discovered about myself to recreate an atmosphere for success. Some people work really, really well in loudness and in chaos. That's me. I'm the oldest of 5. I thrive in energy, in energetic situations. I'm like, yes, let's do it. I feed off of the energy. I use it to fuel me. My husband is the exact opposite. He can work by a quiet beach and get a lot done. I would get distracted by the waves and the beauty of the sand, and I would engulf myself in it and wouldn't get much work done. But he would get work done because that's the environment he needs to succeed. So when you learn how to identify your feelings and identify them accurately, you can reverse engineer that process so that you are able to really set yourself up to succeed. Okay, so now that you've identified your feelings, and now that you have skills to really hone in on how you're feeling so that you can respond to your true feelings, how do you do that with kids? Okay, so here's some ideas. The first thing that you should do with your kids is give them the vocabulary to express themselves. So teach them words outside of sad, happy, angry. Teach them frustrated, teach them aggravated, teach them somber, teach them anxious, teach them different words so that they can express how they're feeling and so that they can accurately express how they're feeling. It's important to also give them ways to cope. So one thing I like doing with my daughter, my 3-year-old, is I like to create videos of her. And what I'll do is I'll take pictures when she's upset. I'll say, here, let's make a book together. And I'll sit her on my lap and she might be pouting or crying. I'll take some pictures of her and I'll let her see herself so it'll be in selfie mode. And we'll take some pictures and then we'll go through the process. I'll say, okay, take a deep breath. Breathe in, she'll breathe in. I snap a picture. Breathe out, snap a picture. And so we were able to just create these little storybooks featuring her. And I just used a simple app where I was able to compile the pictures in order. And then I did a voiceover track. And it was so simple, so easy, and so effective. Because what I did is I included her in a coping skill in order to help her with her emotions. And so when she gets frustrated, now she's able to look at her story and say, okay, I know what to do when I'm mad. I breathe in and I breathe out. And I breathe in and I breathe out. And so there are different things that you can do to teach your children how to cope. One thing would be making a storybook with them. Super easy, lots of fun. There's tons of apps out there to teach you how to do it. Another technique would be mindful meditation. And so what you would do with this is you sit them down and you have them be really still, or they can lay down, and you close their eyes, have them close their eyes, and you create a picture for them. So that might be, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Do you remember when we went to the beach? Do you remember how the water went out and in and out and in? Do you remember the way that the waves sound? Do you remember the way that the water felt? And so you're just talking them through their feelings and allowing them to just really become still with themselves. You can also have them visualize blowing up a balloon. Okay, I want you to close your eyes and pick a balloon of any color. What's your balloon color? And let them talk to you. Okay, all right, we're gonna blow your balloon up and it's gonna get bigger and bigger, okay? So I want you to take a deep breath in and blow your balloon. Take a deep breath in and blow your balloon. And these little things, these mindfulness techniques are really centered around helping them emotionally reset. So before they get to the point where they're emotionally hijacking you, when you see that the escalation is beginning, that's when you want to interfere and you want to say, hey, let's try this. Let's try this technique. Now, if you have older kids who are able to write, one of my favorite things to do is to write a gratitude list. You can write all the things you're thankful for. And if your kids are like mine, at first they're going to be like, I'm not thankful for anything, especially if they're upset. And so you have them write down and say, it's okay. What's one thing that you are thankful for? What do you like to eat? Like, okay, I'm thankful for tacos. Okay, tacos, that's good. What else do you like? You know, who are your friends? I know you're mad at me right now because I told you you can't have something, but you know, what about your dad? And so as you give them a starter to that list, then they start to create this list. And what it does is it helps them to shift their focus from being frustrated to being grateful. And gratefulness is the root of joy. Gratitude is the root of joy. And so it really helps them reframe. Another thing that I like to do, speaking of reframing, is I like to reframe a problem. Right now, with this virus going around, people are freaking out. And yes, it's very frustrating and it's very hard. But we can take this same situation and reframe it. We can say, yes, families are having to stick together. Families are getting to know each other now like never before. People are really finding cool, innovative ways to stay connected, to work, and to serve their customers or their employees. What a wonderful age we're in where so many people are coming up with business ideas or finally writing those books that they've been putting on hold for so long. And so reframing is taking a negative situation and trying to find something good out of it. My last tip for you is to have family goals. Here's the thing, you guys. We set goals for our careers. We set goals for our finances. We set goals for just about everything. But it's very rarely that people set goals for their relationships. And so set your goals for your relationships. What do you want your marriage with your spouse to look like in 10 years? What do you want your relationship with your children to look like in 10 years? in 20 years? What kinds of conversations do you want to have? How do you want them to relate to you? And when you look at your relationship from the perspective of having goals, it makes hard family conversations easier to have. You have them with a little more grace and gentleness because you have your goal in mind of, you know what, I really want to build our family, or I really want to be a safe place for my kids. I really want to be somebody that my spouse can confide in. And so when you set your familial goals, it's really important that you take some time out and you look at what you are wanting out of that relationship, as well as what you are wanting to give. So for me personally, I want my children to be able to talk to me about anything. So this means when they come to me with their long drawn out stories, I can't go, oh, again. Instead, I get to be engaged. I get to be engaged, even if it's just for a few minutes, even if I have to put a time limit on it. I get to say, okay, tell me all about it. Mommy's here. And yes, I do get to also teach them boundaries and when is an appropriate time to talk and how sometimes mommy and daddy need their space. But I'm setting up goals. I'm setting up our relationship with our goals in mind. And so that's one technique that you can use. Also, as you're talking to your spouse or partner, sit down with them and ask them, what are some things that you want out of our relationship? Where do you see us 10 years from now? You know, marriage should not be the end. It should not be the goal. It should be the start. So oftentimes people get married and then they stop. They stop planning for their relationship future. You know, you date and then you plan on getting engaged and then you plan on getting married, and then what? In order to grow old together, you have to plan out what that looks like for you and for your family. And so now is a great time to do that. So just to recap, with your family and with your personal self, one of the strategies that you can use during this time is asking yourself the 4 questions. How am I feeling? When did I start to feel this way? Why do I feel this way? And how am I feeling? My next tip was to give your children the vocabulary to express how they're feeling. You want to make sure that you're empowering them with the correct words to identify their emotions. You also want to make sure that you are giving them coping skills. Take time to have mindful meditation or to write gratitude lists. Make sure that you're taking the time to listen to them and to do things like creating a storybook for the young children. And as a family, set your goals intentionally. Think about what lies in your future for your kids and your relationship with your kids, for your spouse and your relationship with your spouse. What are the things that you hope for? What are the things that you would like to see? Self-awareness is one of the hardest things. It can be very challenging to stop and identify your emotions because we live in a society where things move very quickly. Things are created very quickly. But one of the great gifts of this time is the ability to really take a minute and slow down. The ability to take some time and really sit with yourself. And so one last thing that I have for you and for your family is for you guys to write your success story. Whenever something crazy or terrible happens, something frustrating or overwhelming, I take the time out to write my success story. And I get detailed, very detailed. So I might say something along the lines of, oh my goodness, I only had $25 left in my bank account. My husband and I were fighting all the time. I had no idea what we were going to do. But then this virus went around and we were stuck at home together and we had nothing but time. So I looked at my husband and I said, and I just write out this whole beautiful, elaborate story where I get to take charge of how I'm feeling, and I get to take charge of the trajectory of my life. And I want to give that gift to you today. I want to encourage you. Take some time and really write your story. And here are some tips that you can use to write your story. The first thing is to identify where you are right now. How are you feeling? Like, I was feeling frustrated. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm heartbroken. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. But I'm walking around with a smile on my face because, I don't want my husband to know or my wife to know. And so it's very important that you take the time out to really identify how you are feeling. Identify what is going through your mind. The second thing you want to do is lean into your and then, right? There's a moment, there's a catalyst, there's a shift that happens, and you get to choose what that shift is going to be. It can be that, an explosive argument just happens, and now you have to figure out what you want to do. It can be that, you just got an email from your job, and you don't know how much longer they're going to continue with your salary because of everything that's going on. It could be that your child walked by and looked at you and smiled like you were the answer to their every prayer or concern. You get to choose what your and then is, but we all have one. We all have one. Tragedy and crisis are crucibles for change. They're like incubators for brilliant ideas and innovations. We're never going to get a time like this again. We're lucky to have this one. And so take all this pressure and figure out what your and then is going to be. Then take the time and write out your vision. Write it out. Be explicit. What happens? What were you doing? What do you smell in the future? What does your success taste like? Right? I'm so excited. I love to eat, so I always like to include where I'm going to eat. I love the water, so I'm always somewhere beachside. And write out your dreams so explicitly so that when you step into that moment in real life, you recognize it. And you're like, wow, this is it. This is it. So be explicit about where you are, what your feelings are now. Identify your and then moments. And then you want to write out your dream in great detail. You want to write down everything you smell, taste, and see, even what you feel, so that when you get there, you recognize it. And this is something that you can also do with your children. So here's a cool way to do it with your kids. With your kids, you can do it in list form. You can say, how are you feeling right now? And then you write down everything that they're feeling. And then you say, okay, what's going on right now? And they'll say, I'm stuck at home and I can't go outside and play with my friends. Okay, let's write that down. You write the list of what's going on right now, why they're feeling what they're feeling. And then finally, you want to say, okay, so we can't change what's happening right this second, but we can change what we do about it. So what's going to come out of this? And then start writing a list of, they created a fort in the backyard that was the most epic forts in the world, or they wrote a story or a book, or created a play, or had a YouTube channel, or whatever. But now is the time to really be able to zero in on what it is that they need in order to be successful or feel successful. And then after they accomplish that success, you want to highlight it and say, hey, you guys, did you realize that you're living your success story? Because that creates a habit. And what happens is you're teaching them that, hey, hard times are going to happen. You have feelings about them. You can change that. And it teaches them the pattern that you want them to have as they're going into adulthood and having to cope with all of these different struggles and challenges that life brings. If you guys would like to connect with me, You can connect with me on my website, LeeAnahJames.com. My homeschool website is melanintaught.com. And you can connect with me on Instagram with @melanintaught or on facebook.com/melanintaught. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. I have courses and literature available on my website, so feel free to help yourself to ordering whatever it is you need. And if there's anything that I can do to support you in your journey as you are embarking on uncharted territory as a homeschool parent for the first time who's also working at home, or if you're a seasoned homeschool parent and you're just looking for some new resources, make sure that you connect with me. All right. I hope you found this information valuable, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.